Are you one of those still talking about the nomination, screening, and eventual confirmation of Festus Keyamo as a minister? Then I have one question for you. Of what purpose, or what do you hope to achieve still talking about the confirmation of Festus Keyamo as a minister? People are talking about the whole event that happened at the Senate. And many thought that he would have been disqualified, but eventually he was not disqualified. He was confirmed as a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, having been nominated by Tinubu. It's causing a lot of arguments out there. Many people are supporting, some are supporting, some are against it. But I have one question. This whole discussion that is going around now about Festus Keyamo, how does it benefit the extremely poor Nigerians? How? How does it benefit those who are unable to survive, the jobless ones? How does it benefit them? You know, I'm beginning to think that these people who are behind this whole news cycle, they understand our short memory. They understand our short attention span. We are busy talking about Festus Keyamo now. We are busy talking about, oh, Tinubu should not have nominated him, or he should have nominated him. We are busy talking about the Senate should not have confirmed him, or should have confirmed him. Meanwhile, we are forgetting the weightier things that concern Nigerians. 140 million Nigerians are living in multidimensional poverty. How is discussing Festus Keyamo's confirmation solving the problem of hunger and food and poverty for them? How? We are busy talking about Festus Keyamo's confirmation and screening. We are forgetting what happened a few weeks ago when the DSS invaded the High Court in Lagos and desecrated the judiciary. We are forgetting. We are forgetting weightier issues, the threats that the Tinubu legal team actually made to the judiciary, to the presidential elections petitions court in their final written submission or final written address. We are forgetting about it. While we are talking about Festus Keyamo and why it should be confirmed or why it should not be confirmed, why they just divide us to be arguing amongst ourselves. The people whom court order have been given to be released are still in detention. Nnamdi Kanu is still in detention. Emefiele is still in detention. El Zakzaki is still in detention. Sambo Dasuki is still in detention despite having court orders for their release. While we are discussing Festus Keyamo and the whole saga that happened, the drama that he played for us, I think we Nigerians will really love drama. And the people who create this news, they know that Nigerians love drama. But while we were watching and discussing the drama of Festus Keyamo's confirmation, guess what is happening? Those who disrespected the rule of law are getting away with it. In fact, do you know that the confirmation of Festus Keyamo actually establishes the disrespect for the rule of law? You would expect that the Senate, who has suffered in the hands of Festus Keyamo, would have done the right thing to set the right precedent or precedence by ensuring that Festus Keyamo is denied confirmation, rejected. But no, they actually just poured fuel on the fire of disrespect for the rule of law by confirming Keyamo. And we are helping them by talking about it, while forgetting the weightier things of the matters of law. The same Senate that has suffered from that in the hands of Festus Keyamo, they are the ones that still went ahead to confirm him. The same Senate that has suffered in the hands of the DSS in terms of disrespect for the rule of law, when the DSS invaded the National Assembly and blocked legislators from entering, that same Senate refused to make any statement condemning the act of the DSS weeks after the incidents happened. The same Senate. You would expect that the Senate would be, since they are a representation of the people, that they would actually act in the interest of the people. But that's not what we see. And that's not even my pain. My pain is that somehow they get Nigerians to be talking about the things that are useless to them. This whole news of Festus Keyamo's screening and eventual confirmation by the Senate, how does it benefit Nigerians? Let me ask you, do you know that while all these distractions, and I call them distractions, the news cycle they give us the news, they just throw it at us and they leave us to be talking about it. And they think amongst themselves that, just give them 3 days or 4 days, they will get tired of talking about it, and then they will give us another one. Then we'll start talking about it, leaving the important things. Do you know that while all these arguments about Festus Keyamo is going on, while all these arguments about invade or don't invade Niger is going on, they are looting Nigeria's resources through the CBN, through the NNPC. We came and we shouted about the whole fraud behind the NNPC subsidy removal, the whole NNPC DSDP arrangement. We screamed and talked about it for a few days. And these same corrupt politicians probably just sat back and were watching us. After a few days, who's talking about the fraud behind the subsidy removal anymore? Despite the fact that the weightier matter of having to pay 617 naira per liter of fuel is biting us in our yash. It's biting us. We have forgotten about that. Nobody is calling for the resignation of Mele Kyari. In fact, I ask myself every day, how is it that we still have somebody like Mele Kyari as the group CEO of NNPC? We are shouting about how fuel subsidy is bad and fuel subsidy needs to go. We are not asking the more important question about why was there fuel subsidy in the first place? They say they are paying subsidy because they have to pay for importing fuel, and that is dependent on the value of the naira, the same naira that they devalued. Okay, they are paying subsidy because of that. Why are we not refining our fuel locally? Nobody is asking that question. We have spent $20 billion on turnaround maintenance on our refineries in over 8 years now. And our refineries are refining 0% capacity. Nobody's talking about that. Companies were given contract to do the turnaround maintenance. Those companies were paid money. Yet the work they were supposed to do, they did not do. Nobody's talking about that. The Tinubu administration came and then started lying to Nigerians about, if I necessarily wouldn't call it lying. I'll call it distracting Nigerians by telling them about the evil of fuel subsidy, distracting their attention from what they should be focusing on to what they should not. Will there be fuel subsidy, I'm asking now, if our refineries were working? Will there be fuel subsidy if our refineries were working? Of course there will not be fuel subsidy. So why are our refineries not working? Why are we not focused on this? Why are we not talking about this perpetually? Why are we dancing to the tune of these corrupt politicians who control mainstream media? Why are we dancing to their tune? We are the ones that empower them to oppress us. Yes, I'll say it. We Nigerians, we are the ones that empower these corrupt politicians to continue to oppress us. because we follow their lead. They are leading us and distracting us with useless things, and we follow suit. Why should we waste our time talking about Festus Keyamo's confirmation, whether it should or should not be confirmed, when there is a weightier matter of our refineries not working? When there is a weightier matter of those who collected our 20 billion US dollars, 20 billion US dollars, those who collected it in the name of turnaround maintenance for the refineries, have not returned it. They have not been brought to book. Those who collected our 10 billion US dollars in just 2 years for fraudulent fuel subsidy that did not exist, we are not going after them to return our money. Rather, we the people are choosing to watch the time-wasting confirmation and watch the drama that unfolded with the whole confirmation of Festus Keyamo. Come on. Come on. If we know what is good for us, and I say this with all sense of seriousness, we need as Nigerians to focus on the important thing. Look, the problem of Nigeria is bigger than just saying it is corruption or the constitution or marginalization or Islamization. It's bigger. It is a complex system that is put in place by the IMF and the World Bank, and we are not even aware of it. So they are hiding behind the scene, causing problems for us, and then leaving us distracted. We are chasing shadows. It's like beating the air. It is frustrating. It is frustrating. If you think that corruption is the problem of Nigeria, ask yourself, who created this corruption? How did this corruption start? When did it start? Who created it? I can tell you for free that corruption was created by the IMF and the World Bank, backed by an elite group in the US-led West. And they are using the tool of crisis and privatization, yes, to create corruption. So that with corruption in place, they can do two things: keep African countries poor and continue to loot, I'll call it loot, to extract their resources for next to nothing. Why are we allowing ourselves to be dragged and distracted? Let's focus on the key issues. Now they are planning to increase the pump price of fuel to 1,000 naira per liter. They saw that they increased it to 540, they got away with it. They increased it to 617, they got away with it. They are planning to increase it to 1,000 naira. That is how we will sit down, and they will also get away with it. I just fear for Nigerians, and I pity for Nigerians. Talking about these things will not solve it. What we need is solution. We need action. And there is no better action to take than to enact the laws. We need to ban these politicians. We need to ban them. We need to ban them from being able to school abroad, from being able to go abroad for medical treatment, from being able to save and store their money and buy properties abroad. We need to stop them. If we don't stop them, we will keep talking from now till tomorrow about changing constitution, about kicking out corruption. We will keep talking. They will just sit back and be laughing at us in their mind and say, let them talk. When they are tired of talking, they will keep quiet. Because unless we ban these politicians and everybody in government from being able to send themselves and their children to go and school abroad, from being able to send themselves and their children and their family from going abroad for medical treatment, from being able to send money and store and save money abroad or buy properties abroad, until we stop them, we are going nowhere. All of this corruption will continue. You see the gang up that is happening now. There's already a gang up between the executives and the National Assembly, the legislature. You see Akpabio, the way he handles the Senate. You see the Senate majority leader, Senator Opeyemi Bamidele. You see the way they are handling the National Assembly. They are handling it as a baby for Tinubu, the executive. You know, when Ahmed Lawan said in the 9th Senate that anything the executives bring or anything the president bring, they will approve. People said, oh, he said a wrong thing. But you see, Akpabio has not said that, but they say action speaks louder than words. That's what they are doing. Anything that has to do with the executive, they defend. Look, small problem with Keyamo's confirmation, we see Akpabio in the villa. And then he comes back out of the closed-door meeting with Tinubu, and then they still go ahead to put a stamp on disrespect for the rule of law that Keyamo perpetrated while he was minister. You see the gang up that is going on. A gang up of people that ordinarily should bow their heads in shame and step out of public office. Those people are ganging up against the Nigerian people. Look at Bagudu. Somebody who has been involved in money corruption cases right from the days of Abacha has been brought. Somebody who was a 2-time governor in a state that has one of the highest poverty rates in Nigeria is brought to be a minister. What a shame. Even Festus Keyamo, that was minister for 8 years, in charge of employment, and in his tenure, unemployment rose in Nigeria. He failed woefully to create jobs. They promised 10 million jobs. We didn't see 1 million. In fact, at some point, it was recorded that 3 million jobs were lost due to the wicked policies of Warri. And yet, Tinubu went to bring the same Festus Keyamo. You see, there's a gang up. And the gang up is similar to the gang up that we saw in Lagos when Tinubu was governor. That was the gang up between the legislature and the executives that enabled Tinubu to pass this very satanic and wicked pensions law. That gang up is what is going on. And would we be quiet? I don't think we should be talking, because talking is just a waste of time. We need to take actions. We need to talk. We need to bring solutions. We need to begin to implement solutions. Yes, and to implement solutions, we need to. This one now is we can draw up these laws to ban public office holders from sending their children and themselves abroad for medical checkups. We need to do that. And we need to also do that for schooling abroad. We also need to do that for public office and government workers generally, from being able to save money abroad and buy properties abroad. Once we're able to do this, we will remove this conflict of interest that is killing Nigeria. The conflict of interest that the IMF and the World Bank and the elite group of a US-led West is using to perpetrate the corruption that is crippling Nigeria. Corruption has a great contribution that is making to the problem of Nigeria, yes, but corruption is not the problem. Something caused the corruption. Until we go to the root cause of that corruption, corruption will continue to exist. And mind you, corruption is everywhere. So corruption is like a virus. And that's why I call the whole system that the IMF and the World Bank is using to keep Nigeria poor, I call them the colonial virus disease. It's a virus. It affects every system of Nigeria. There's corruption in the religious sector. There's corruption in the business sector. There's corruption in the entertainment sector. There's corruption in the politics. There's corruption in just name it. In sports, there's corruption in media. Corruption everywhere. If you go deep into corruption, you will see that really nobody is free of it. There are very, very few Nigerians who are not involved in corruption, in the corruption that is crippling Nigeria. And those that are not even involved is because they have not had opportunities to be involved yet. It is systemic. And to solve it, we can't just keep focusing on corruption alone, or focusing on constitution. Look, if you change the constitution 1 million times, so far as this virus that is put in place by the IMF and the World Bank is still in place. Forget it. Divide Nigeria into 1,000 pieces. So far as this virus that the IMF and the World Bank have created is still in place, forget it. Look at what happened in Sudan. Many thought, oh, when you divide Sudan into Sudan and South Sudan, where you have the North part being predominantly Muslim and the South Sudan being predominantly Christian, then there will be peace and development. Is there peace and development there now? If you divide Nigeria into 6 geopolitical zones today, there will still be crisis. There will be crisis in the southeast because of the rivalry among the different Igbo sub-tribes. There will be crisis in the south-south because definitely there will be crisis in the south-south. There will be crisis in the southwest because of the power blocks, the Oduduwa, the Oyo, the Ijebu, or I call them the Egbas. And then of course you have the Lagos. There'll still be crisis there because the crisis is driven by this virus of conflict of interests that the IMF and World Bank puts in places. It doesn't matter how small you divide Nigeria. It doesn't matter how big Nigeria is. The problems will continue if that underlying cause is not removed. And that is why my emphasis is always on the IMF and the World Bank. There is a collaboration between an elite group of people in Nigeria, which we call the cabal, and an elite group of people in the US-led West that are responsible for setting up the IMF and the World Bank. There's a collaboration. And so long as that collaboration exists, we will continue to have the problems we have in Nigeria and indeed in Africa. And the starting point to solving that problem is to separate them. And that separation cannot happen unless we enact these 3 laws. We need to ban government workers, any government worker, from sending their children and themselves and their family members to school abroad. We need to do the same for medical treatment abroad. And we need to do the same for sending or saving money and buying properties abroad. Once we're able to do this, we'll remove the incentive that the IMF is using to make sure that these corrupt politicians continue to be corrupt. If we don't do that, corruption will continue. And you know, corruption is benefiting some people. Look at Festus Keyamo. He was singing praise and worship. Festus Keyamo is singing praise and worship when he heard that his name was put in the ministerial list. And we had some other people like that. The people who are close to Festus Keyamo, they'll be singing now. There was this Okotete that was jubilating and celebrating because she was named as a minister. She was even speaking in tongues. Now, his church or her church members will be celebrating because they are going to benefit from the corruption. There are people close to you, close to me, who are benefiting from this corruption. These people will not talk bad about the corruption. So that is a way to divide and conquer us, because when things like the screening and the nomination and the confirmation of Festus Keyamo and the likes come on, we begin to talk about it. We talk about it. We spend hours talking about it. Meanwhile, it does not benefit us in any way. It does not benefit us in any way. In fact, in talking about it, we are playing into the hands of these people. I beg you, Nigerians, we need to enact this law. Whatever you can do, check the description or the pinned comment. Whatever you can do, if it is to contribute your time, let us make sure these laws are in place. It is laws that America used to change their society. We can use the same laws to change our society. Let's stop focusing on the symptoms. They are symptoms. All this marginalization is symptoms. If the Southeast can be crying about marginalization, imagine. The Southeast has 5 states and they are crying about marginalization. The Southwest has 6 states and they are crying about marginalization. The North has, let's say Core North now has over 11 states and they are crying about marginalization. What should the Urobos in Delta cry about? What should the Igbiras in Kogi, what should they cry about? The Tiv and the Domas, what should they cry about? The Nupes in Niger, what should they cry about? You see, those who are saying they are marginalized, the Igbos are saying they are marginalized. At every point in time, you have 5 Igbo governors. At every point in time, you have at least 5 Igbo governors. At every point in time, you have at least 6 Yoruba governors. At every point in time, you have at least 11 Hausa Fulani governors. How many governors do we have at any point in time that are Idoma, that are thieves? At every point in time. How many of these tribes that I just mentioned, the Shekiris, the Urobos, how many presidents have they produced? How many presidents have the thieves produced? The Idomas, how many presidents? The Igalas, the Okuns, how many presidents have they produced? How many Senate presidents have they produced? So what are we talking about? Marginalization. It's all a distraction. They are just the symptom. They are using all of those to do their divide and conquer agenda. And I beg Nigerians not to fall for it anymore. Let's focus on the real cause of the problems that affect Nigerians. The effect of it, which is poverty, unemployment. Many people are talking about giving Tinubu the benefit of the doubt, that eventually his policies will create jobs. And I just laugh. I laugh because people fail to ask themselves one particular question. And I will ask that question. How many jobs do you think that Nigeria needs today? How many jobs do you think that Nigeria needs? To answer that question, I'll ask you, do you know that the percentage of unemployment in Nigeria is about 40%, and that's about 66 million Nigerians, 66 million Nigerians unemployed. So if we're talking about jobs or any investment that will create jobs, then we should be talking about an investment that will create at least 50 million jobs. And then I keep wondering in my head, I don't know if you're wondering it too, but I know certainly that the people in power are not wondering it, because the policy directions of Tinubu right now is to open the border, remove the duty on importation of used cars, so that more used cars and more new cars will be imported into Nigeria. Yes, I know you people like to drive new cars. You want to drive the latest Benz, the latest Range Rover, the latest Land Cruiser. So that will appeal to you. But what you should look at is the effect on the Nigerian economy, on jobs creation. For every Land Cruiser, every Range Rover, every Escalade that is imported into Nigeria, we are losing at least 1,000 jobs. I'm not saying that we should not drive cars, but what we really need is to encourage local manufacturing of cars. Is by supporting companies like Innocent to produce more cars. In fact, we can go to Innocent and say, and government can help Innocent to produce entry-level cars that taxi drivers can use. And that arrangement, and an arrangement can be put in place between the government and Innocent Motors to such an extent that the government will provide funding for Innocent Motors, and Innocent Motors will provide or produce or manufacture very small cars, entry-level cars that are just good enough with enough safety features and security features to carry customers from point A to point B. Fuel-efficient cars. Produce it at very low prices. And taxi drivers can begin to buy these vehicles from Innocent, and that will create more jobs. High quality jobs. Give opportunity to taxi drivers to use new vehicles. Improve the transportation across Nigeria. That's what that policy will do. But rather than encourage local manufacturing, the policy of Tinubu is encouraging the importation of used and manufactured goods. That can only create low-level jobs in a limited number. that you have a foreign company coming to create and build refineries in Nigeria, what that will mean is that it will create low-level jobs. The high-quality jobs of manufacturing that will really add value, those are sold away. And the IMF and the World Bank, they know this. They created that system. And they are dissolving the sovereignty of Nigeria. Many don't know. There's something that just happened in UK that actually can be compared to a coup against Nigeria by the IMF and the World Bank. I'll do a separate video and I'll expose it. The IMF and the World Bank is killing Nigeria. They are killing Africa. And the way they are doing it, they have devised it in such a way that we are not even seeing it. And the people that should know, they have been blackmailed or compromised to continue to push the agenda of the IMF and the World Bank. And it's evident to all. But the problem is we keep talking, no action. It is time for us to take action. And it starts from implementing these laws. Discuss Keyamo's matter all you want. Things will not change. All the talk that we talked about the infiltration or about the invasion of the Lagos High Court by the DSS, has this stopped the DSS from still holding on to Emefiele or Nnamdi Kanu or El Zakzaky or Sambo Dasuki? Has it stopped them? Has it stopped Tinubu from still bringing the same old hand? And people talk about Tinubu being a wonderful talent hunter. The past 2 months, he's been hunting for the likes of them Festus Keyamo. He's been hunting for the likes of them Nasir El-Rufai. The more time that passes with this Tinubu's administration, the more problems Nigerians are going to face. And the earlier we realize this, the better. So we should begin to take steps while we wait for the outcome of the judiciary. We should begin to take steps. I hope the judiciary will serve justice to Nigeria. I hope this gang up that is in place now between the executives and the legislature will not carry over to the judiciary. I hope. But all of them should know. The three of them should know that when their gang up becomes very, very glaring and apparent to the people, and their policies have impoverished Nigerians to the point that they have no other options, their backs have been pushed to the wall, they'll be forced to react. And then they will know that the people really have a last resort. Because those who make peaceful change impossible actually make violent ones inevitable. That's my advice to them. My honest advice. Nigerians, let's take up this challenge. Talking about it will not help. Let us take actions. And the actions start not with waiting for the judgment of the tribunal. Yes, we'll put pressure on the judiciary. We'll put all eyes on the judiciary to do the right thing. But while we wait for that, we cannot allow the policies of this Tinubu administration to destroy and kill all Nigerians before the judgment comes. So we must take action. Because whether or not Tinubu is removed, this National Assembly is still going to be in place. And they will still be responsible for the policies that they are defending right now. So what is good for us is to make sure that we push these laws. Let's start with these three. To ban government officials from sending themselves to their children to school abroad, from sending themselves or their children or their family members to get medical treatment abroad, from sending or saving money or buying properties abroad. Once we can achieve these three, forget it. We will be on the right path to solving the problem of corruption in Nigeria. I'm telling you the truth, and I kid you not. National Association of Residents Doctors are on strike. ASU is planning to go on strike. All of these are happening because of this conflict of interest that happens because our government workers are able to do these three things that we talked about. If Tinubu has no option but to get treated in Nigeria, I tell you in 6 months, the Nigerian health system will be fixed. If all these politicians do not have the ability to send their children abroad for medical, for education, I tell you in 6 months, the education system in Nigeria will be fixed. If they do not have the ability to save money abroad and buy properties abroad. I tell you, in 6 months, the infrastructure of Nigeria will revolutionize. In fact, in 6 months, Nigeria will be on an aggressive path to industrialization. And that is the only thing that can create at least 30 million jobs in Nigeria within the next 5 years. But nobody's talking about that right now because they have fed us with the bait to talk. Talk about Festus Keyamo. Talk about Niger coup. Talk about Tinubu's policies, subsidy removal. Talk, and not do anything. These talks are important. Yes, but we should focus on the right thing. On a final note, do you know that right now there is a corruption that is going on in the CBN? While we are distracted with all these news, they are busy doing something in the CBN, stealing Nigeria's money. In the CBN right now, I'm not talking about the CBN under Emefiele, no. The current CBN under Tinubu, their corruption is going on a large scale there. Our monies are being diverted. I'll talk about it in the next video.